All right, we're going to be showing off Karvi, the solo mode. And this is the official solo mode. So I'll make sure to add a link to the description below. Now, this solo mode has two variants. And the one I'm going to be showing off today is variant number 2, which is for the Automa opponent, since variant number 1 is a beat your own score. However, the way the dice are managed on the rondel is very similar, so you can use some of the concepts from this variant to get a good idea of how the beat your own score will work as well. And I'm just going to go over the first round just to give you an idea of what it's like to play Karvi as a solo mode, but also to see if this is a game you want to buy because of the solo mode expansion. So let's start with the setup. Alright, so what you do is get the 5 starting cards and then randomly assign 3 to the players. So the Automa opponent's name is Völva. I hope I'm pronouncing that correct. And from what I read, it comes from like a Nordic or Scandinavian methodology, and it means wand carrier or carrier of the magic staff. She is able to see into the future or something like that. Anyway, she's purple. And she got the lowest valued card with 2, so she's going to go first. And her starting cards gives her 2 dice, one value 3 pip, and the other value 2. Although they don't really matter, and I'll talk about that in just a little bit. So, since she's first, I went ahead and placed the first die with a value 3 pip on the first space, and the one with a value 2 pip is the last space. As for me, I get 2 pip value for each of my die, so I place them here. And Völva also gets 2 sidekicks, and these 2 dice that have 2 pip value each are for the blue player, named Blazy. And I place his dice in the middle. And Greenhauser, who is, you guessed it, green, doesn't get dice, but we do get to place all of his towers and trading posts out onto the board. I've placed all of Völva and Greenhauser's towers and trading posts in this supply cup. So Blazy, is in charge of blocking me on the rondel board. And Greenhauser is in charge of blocking me out on the map. So for the setup so far, it is the same as the beat your own score setup. However, in this variant, we place both our meeple markers on the 0 space of the scoring track. And the other 2 meeples are placed back in the box. And now we'll go ahead and place the starting cards back in the box as well, since the Automa does not receive or ever play with any resources, cards, or provisions. But I will use my starting card to gather up my starting bonuses, which in this case is going to be 2 fur, 3 gold bars, a starting warrior with a level 1 strength, a ship card, and finally 2 provisions. Alright, so I've got my 3 gold bars, 2 fur, my ship card, which will give me 2 movements for free as long as I pay 1 fur, and there's my level 1 warrior. And finally, I get the 2 provisions. Typically, you would add them to your ship, but because I find it a little bit too fiddly for me, and for the purposes of recording, I'm just going to place them in this area to remind me that I have some movements available. Now, as for Völva, she does get a player board, and she starts with 1 runestone and 2 stacked above her player board. And she gets only 1 upgrade per ship parts, which are placed above her board. And again, she doesn't start with anything else. She's not going to use any warriors, resources, or cards, but she'll gain the trade tiles and raid tiles. Now remember, we will need to place 2 trade and 2 raid tiles for each section all throughout the board, based on their symbols. Alright, now I've placed each pair of matching symbols across the board. Don't forget to add the 3 special rune stones for each upper corner of the board. Remember that the only way to get to these stones is by crossing the map area, which you can only gain access through your 4th added trade or raid tiles on your track. And then once you place your trading post here, you're going to gain 1 of your choice for free. Same thing on this side. You cross the map area and place your tower here, and you're going to get to choose from one of these 3. Now, the bot does not get a ship, only you get to navigate through these oceans and explore. You're not going to have to worry about displacement actions for this solo mode. However, the bot will cheat to gain these tiles. So now we're going to move on to setting up the Automa's playing tiles. Now, these tiles will help to know which tiles to take from the main board and add it to its personal board. And remember, this is done after you've already placed all the tiles on the board, so these are just the leftover tiles that we use. So you're going to get 3 random tiles with the matching symbols from the solo rulebook. In this case, it's the boulders, feather, and a whale. Now you shuffle them and place them face down near the Automa board. And then you're going to get the next set of trade tiles, which are wine, stones, and fish. And then shuffle these as well. And then we're going to add them to the top of the prior stack, again face down. So now you should have a total of 6 trade tiles for the bot. Now for the raid tiles, you're going to grab the number 12, 18, and 24 first. We're going to shuffle those and place them face down near her board. Now we're going to do the same for 5, 2, and 8. And then place those on top of the first stack. And all the remaining trade and raid tiles are placed back in the box. Now for this solo mode, you do remove the top 3 cards from each of the upgrade cards. Oh, and just to be clear, you only place 2 blockade tokens on the middle spaces from each of the beer and provision spots on this rondel. These are considered unavailable spaces. So you're still going to count them, you just can't land any dice there throughout the game. Now this is a 3-round game, so that means you should have 2 stop area tiles, which would be the first 2 rounds, and then the final round is the printed stop area on the board itself. And on some of these tiles, there is a beardless man icon, which is recommended as your first game. All right, and that's the end of the setup. Let's move on to the playthrough. All right, so Völva will go first, and anytime it's the opponent's turn, what you'll want to do first is check to see if there's any spaces between the purple die and my next die. Well, my next die is here, and there are no empty spaces since obviously it is the first turn. So we just go to the next step, which is to roll any of the dice that are behind my next die. In this case, it's just this one. So what we do next is count 3 spaces from my next die. So normally it would land here, but because it's already taken, you place it on the next available space, which is right here. Now, whenever it lands on any one of these gray spots, Völva gains 1 point for each resource. In this case, there's only 1 resource. Now, you and I would typically just gain a silver. But for this automa, it will receive 1 point. So let's go ahead and give her 1 point. And now it's my turn. And I have 2 pips, and I can place this die anywhere around the board. I'm not limited like the AI. But I do have to worry about the cost associated to each of the printed value. So I'm going to go ahead and place it on this space, which offers me 2 warriors with a level 1 strength. And that's going to cost me 1 beer or pip value for my die. So let's go ahead and get these 2 warriors onto my ship. All right, so now I have 3 warriors, each one with 1 strength. And remember that my goal is to raid at least 4 tiles to gain 10 points. Now, if I get 6 tiles, I'll get 26 points. So I do have some incentive to start building up my warriors so that I can start to raid more. I do have some free actions that I can take, and I'm going to go ahead and use the movement action to move my ship. Now I do have some other free actions, but this is the one I want to take. And I could spend both my provisions to move through 1, 2, because this is where I want to go so that I can go ahead and build my first tower. However, I do get to start with this ship card, which allows me to move up to 2 spaces for free. Now I just need to pay 1 fur. All right, so let's go ahead and pay the fur. And now I'm going to go ahead and move my 2 movements. All right, there we go. And now I'm going to build my tower. And now I get the 4 points from this space. And then I'll go ahead and place this card over here, face down, to remind me that I've already played it. All right, let me make some space here for my cards. It's getting a little bit crowded over here. All right, there we go. So now it's back to the opponent. And as you can see here, there are 2 blue dice behind my next die. So they're going to go next. So now anything from my next die back, we just need to roll the dice. All right, so we separate the blank die for now and start with the one that has the pip value of 3. So that means we're going to need to move the die 3 spaces. And we always start counting by the next space from my leftmost die. So we're going to go ahead and go 1, 2, 3. So we're going to place it here. Now, nothing happens with the blue die. They just simply block spaces from me. And now we move on to the blank one. And the rule states that you must search for the next space that has a yellow, red, or brown spot, whichever comes first. And in this case, it's the space right here. So now this one has blocked me, and I can't do any trade right now unless I go all the way around. All right, so now it's back to me, and I'm going to go ahead and move my die with a value of 2 pips. Now, of course, I can place it anywhere, but I do have to keep in mind that the more spaces I leave behind me, the more possibilities that the Automa will gain a point for each empty available space. And actually, before I make my first move, I'm going to go ahead and take a free action first. So I'm going to spend one of my provisions to move my ship. And I'm going to go ahead and move it 1 space here. And now I get to choose which one of these I want to take. And I'm going to take this one. So we'll go ahead and place it here. And I just need to have a total of 12 warrior strengths. So this one goes back. But since I just have 3, this is something I'm going to have to focus on now. Especially since this one's going to give me 5 points, 2 gold bricks, 2 helmet cards. So this is something you're going to have to keep in mind, that these numbers in the back mean what the cost and the requirements are going to be. And out of my main action, I'm going to place it here. And that's going to be a cost of 1. That's going to give me another warrior with a strength of 2. So that's going to be a total of 5 strengths so far. And that's going to be the end of my turn. All right, now it's back to Völva. And because there is a space between my next die and Völva's dice, I will have to give her a point. All right, here's her point. All right, so we just need to roll the dice behind my next die. And let's see what we get. All right, so we always start with a blue dice. And with 5 pips, we just start counting the first space after my next die. And there you go. Blazy blocks a trade space. And we have a pair of 2s here. Oh, and before I forget, let me take out the stop area tile. And now we're going to count 2 spaces for the first one. So that's 1, 2. And because it would have landed there and it's occupied, then you just place it on the next available space. And so now Völva will raid. So here's what you do. You pick the top raid tile from Völva's personal stack, and you reference the symbol that's at the bottom, so you know which raid tile she's going to be removing from the main board. And that's going to be the first one here. And then you're going to flip it over and place it on her track. And place it on the first empty space as normal rules. And the only thing that Völva gets is the points. She doesn't worry about anything else on these tiles. And now she's going to get 2 points from it. And the one we used as a reference gets put back in the box. And for the next die, we move it 2 spaces as well. So we're going to go 1, 2. And obviously we're not going to put it on top of this one, so we're going to move it to the next empty space. And now she's going to perform another raid. And the next one we're looking for is this horse. So let's go ahead and look for that. And there we go. Here's the horse. All right, she's going to get another 2 points from it. We're going to place it on the next empty space. And the tile that we referenced is going to go back to the box. All right, it's back to me. Now with 1 pip value, I have enough to go to this space and get an upgrade. But before I do my main action, I'm going to take a free action first. And I'm going to move my ship 1 space. So I'll move it here. And I'll take the last pig raid tile. And this one's a little bit easier. It only requires a value of 2. And I've got plenty of those. And for my main action, I'm going to go ahead and take this die and place it here so I can start getting some more provisions. Unfortunately, I'm only going to get 2 since I haven't built anything yet. And I'll just put them right here. All right, it's back to the bot. Now, as I mentioned before, I did leave a gap behind my next die. And at the beginning of the bot's turn, they will get a point for each empty space I leave behind. And in this case, it's just 1. So here's her 1 point. All right, so the next step is to roll all the dice behind my next die. All right, and we always start with the blue dice. And remember that we count from our first die. And there we go. Blazy has blocked me here. All right, and for the next one, there's a 5 pip value. So we'll need to place it in 5 spaces over. Next, we're going to place the purple die for Völva, and her first one goes here, which means she will gain points based on where we place the next pieces out on the board. So now what we do next is we pull out the two pieces randomly and place them out onto the board. And remember, I mixed both the purple and the green color pieces, which includes all the towers and trading posts for both bots. All right, so we're going to go ahead and grab two. And here we go. And it looks like we're going to get two trading posts. And we always start with the purple ones first. And the way it works is that you want to reference this area as a starting point, and you're going to work your way up to whichever one is the closest available space. So the closest available one is the one right here. Since she is the first one in this space, she will grab the highest value, and in this case, she's going to get 3 points. And as for Greenhouser, again, we're going to look for the closest one. It's going to be the same one right here. Now, they don't earn any points. They're just there to block me, just like the blue dice. So now if I do build a trading post here, the only points I'm going to get is 1. And for this next one, we just count 4 spaces. Now, I would place it here, except that this is considered an unavailable space. In other words, we count it, but we simply do not place them here. So we would have to place it on the next available space. Now, when they land on these brown spaces, we look at the symbol below, which indicates the type of reward, and in this case, it's a beer. So we just need to reference the bot's personal board to see how much beer. But because she hasn't added any trade tiles here yet, she just gets the 2 beer pips. But she instead exchanges them for points. So here's her 2 points. All right, now it's back to me, and I really needed some provisions, but the only spot I had left is here, which is going to be to get some more pips. And it's free, so I don't have to spend any beer. And since I haven't built any trade tiles yet, I'm only going to get 2 pips. So I'll just add 1 to each one of my die. And I'm going to play one of my free actions, which is to move my ship. So I'm going to spend 1 provision to move my ship up 1 space. And this way I can get the last raid tile from this area. And this one's going to get me a lot of goodies. All right, that's the end of my turn. All right, it's back to the bots. And as you can see, there are no spaces behind my next die, which means I won't have to give her any points. So we just have to go straight to rolling her dice. All right, so again, we're going to go with the blue die first. And we have 4 spaces to move. Can't place it there, so we place it on the next available space. So now it's Völva's die, and this one has 1 movement. So we just move it to the next available space, which is to upgrade. And when we upgrade for Völva, we always start from left to right. In this case, it would be this one right here, which will give her immediately 2 points. She doesn't do anything with them, they're just for adding points. So here we go. And now she has her 12 points. All right, it's back to me. And I only have 1 provision, so there's not a lot of places I can move right now. So I think I'm just going to go ahead and stick with my main action. And I'm just going to go straight to gaining some rewards. And that's going to cost me 1 beer. Now I'm going to get my treasure. So we start from the top, work our way down. And I'm going to go ahead and choose to gain a silver. And then I get to increase one of my warrior value by 1. So I'll increase this one into a 2. And I don't have any trading posts, so I won't get anything there. But I do have a tower, so I get to increase one of my warriors. So I'll increase this one to a 3. And that's it for me. All right, it's back to the bot, and the first thing we check is for any empty available spaces. But the only spaces are unavailable, so we don't count those. So no points are given. Now we just roll the dice. And we start with blue. And that's going to be 4 spots. And that's right here. Next is Völva's die with 5 spaces. And this means she will perform a raid. So we just need to reference her next raid tile. And in this case, we're looking for an eagle. So now that's going to give her 7 points. So we'll place it here. And here is her 7 points, which is going to bring her total to 19. All right, it's back to me. And now I'm going to go ahead and raid as well. And that's going to take me to 0 beer. And I do have 7 strength in total, so I can raid 2 of my tiles. but I'm going to go with this one right here. And with this one, I'm going to get 6 points, but I will get 2 damage. So I'm just going to flip this one. So that's 1, 2, and 3. That will get rid of this one. But when you kill off your warriors, it does give you points based on their strength. So in this case, I'm going to get 1 point, plus the 6 points here. So I get a total of 7 points. All right, now that brings my total to 11. And now I also get to gain 2 cards of my choice. So I'll get 2 beer cards. So I got a couple of options here, but they will require some fur. And I'll just place them here as if they were in my hand. And since I do have a fur, I think I'm going to go ahead and do this one right away, since I'm going to need some beer on my dice. Now it does cost 2 fur, and I only have 1, so I'm going to need to use one of my gold bars to pay for it. And I'll flip this one over and place it on the side to remind me that I've already played it. So I'm going to turn this one into a 1. And this one I'm going to turn into a 2. All right, now it's back to the AI. And of course, there's no empty spaces here, so no points to give out. So we're just going to roll the dice. All right, so we got a 2 for the blue die. So it's going to be 1, 2, and it's going to be placed at the end here. And 3 for Völva, so that's 1, 2, 3. So it's just going to go ahead and trade. And what we do is pretty much the same thing we did with the raid tiles. We're going to grab the tile that's at the top, and we're going to reference the symbol at the bottom. And in this case, it's the wine, or pottery. And here it is. I'll just need to set it over here on the first empty space. And she's going to get 3 points from this tile. Now the difference is with the raid tile is that with the trade tiles, we do reset the market. All right, there we go. Now for my turn, first I'm going to go ahead and perform a free action and pay both my gold bars to use this upgrade card and get more beer for my dice. So I'll pay my gold, and now I'll get to add 2 pips to my dice. And I'll put this card over here since I've already played it. And I'll just use both pips to increase this die to a 3. And now for my main action, I'm going to go ahead and send this die over to perform an upgrade. And I think I'm going to go with, let's go ahead and go with a ship card. And I'll place it over here since it still needs to be played. And I just need 1 more silver to be able to travel up 3 spaces for free. All right, it's the bot's turn and no empty spaces, so we're good for now. So now we're just going to go ahead and roll the dice. As usual, we start with the blue dice, and because of this empty one, it just goes straight to the trade space. And this blue die has 3 spaces to be moved. So we're going to go ahead and place it here, and now we just have these 2 purple ones left. So that's going to be 1 space, and obviously it can't land here, so we're just going to go ahead and place it on the next available space, and that's going to give her 2 points. All right, so this one is 5 moves. So it's going to go here on the locked spot. Now, in this case, we reference the track where she's reached the locked spots, like this one. She hasn't reached the lock spot on the trade track, so we would just need to reference the raid track. And in this case, instead of gaining the 3 combat strength, she prefers to generate 3 points from it instead. Now, let's say, for example, that she did reach this space. Normally, we would have to choose in the multiplayer game, but for Völva, she always chooses the raid area because it provides more points. All right, so that's how that would work. All right, now for my next turn, I'm going to go ahead and upgrade again. And I'll get a beer card. I'm going to add it to my hand. This is going to give me more pips. And for my last turn, I'm going to go ahead and send this one straight to the stop area. And in this space, I'll be able to get some provisions and some beer. I only have 2 pips, so we'll go ahead and add both to this one. And I also get my provisions, and that's going to be 3. And we'll just add them over here. All right, now back to the bot. No spaces behind me. So we're just going to go ahead and roll the dice. All right, so blue goes first. Now, it doesn't really matter what you roll at this point because the AI will always choose the last available spot within the stop area. However, with this purple one that's blank, I believe it would go straight to the raid space instead of the last available spot. And that's because normally that's where blank dice go. But I wasn't sure, so I posted the question on BGG. Just waiting for an answer on that one. So if this is incorrect, please post your comments below. I'd appreciate it. So in this case, she's going to raid. Again, we check her personal raid tile to reference the next symbol. In this case, the symbol is a bunny. And here it is. And we'll just place it on the last available spot. And that's going to give her 8 points. All right, now for my final turn, I'm going to go ahead. Actually, I'm going to perform a free action first. And I'm going to move my ship here so I can build my next trading post. So that's 1, 2. And that's going to cost me 2 provisions. And I'm finally going to build my trading post. And that's going to give me 4 points. And for my final main action of this round, I'm going to place my die here. And now I'm going to be able to get more beer. So I'll add the 2 pips to this 1 die. Again, there's no spaces behind me, so no points for Völva. And again, there's really no point in rolling a die other than just getting into the habit of doing it, since we already know that there's only 1 spot left for her to place anyway. And again, she gets to choose which one to collect points from. And here she would gain 3 points. And in the raid, she will get 4. So obviously, she's going to choose the one that gives her more points. And here's her 4 points. All right, so that's the end of the round, and I'm going to go ahead and stop there. Hopefully, this has given you enough to see if this is a game for you, especially if you just want to buy it for solo. Now, if I were to continue, I would simply just start over for the next round 2 more times, and then you add up the points, and whoever has the most points wins. Now, I have to be honest, I have gotten beaten by a lot after several times against the bot. However, the designer created a couple of adjustments if you want an easier game or a harder game. So I would recommend you checking those out. But I like this one. I personally have enjoyed playing it. I know many folks have complained about the length of the game and that the game can cause some analysis paralysis, and perhaps some unnecessary steps to completing your turns may contribute towards that. But for me, as a solo player, this game fits just right. The length of the game doesn't bother me because I can play it in different times. I don't have to finish it all in one sitting. And the complexity of this game is enjoyable enough that I don't have to worry about my own analysis paralysis. I think it's a fun game to play, especially the rondel. This is my favorite part of the game. For me, it feels like a chess complexity, not checkers. You can really set yourself up for success while at the same time blocking your opponents for any real good action opportunities. And I think the village tableau is the heartbeat of the game, and it really provides that enjoyable decision. And I think I read that it reminds some folks of the game Takedo because of the rondel-like mechanic. But I feel like with Takedo, you can get points at every spot you land, even if you don't have a lot of options. However, with this one, every spot has a purpose, and it could either break you or make you. If you land on a spot that's not something you're really looking for, it could really give your opponent more options, and you're wasting valuable beer and valuable turns. Of course, you can skip on your free actions, but your main action is the rondel. So this is going to be more of a thinky style mechanic than in most games. I think this one would probably land closer to more like a Glenmore type game than a Takedo for sure. The other thing is that this game feels like a race as you try to get the best tiles or upgrades. And the other thing is that I like that there are 2 different variants. If I just want a quicker game, I'll play the beat your own scorer. And if I want more challenge, I'll play this one with Völva. I think this variant provides just enough challenge and not a lot of AI maintenance, which keeps the game enjoyable. Now, I will say it is a bit disappointing that you're not able to get the full experience of the ships with the AI because there is no interaction there, since the bot doesn't use any of the ships. And I think it's a real interesting mechanic as you can bump or displace other players' ships. Now, some may not like that, but I don't mind. I think it adds more interaction between players. All right, so on another note, I also think the setup is a bit long. There's a lot to set up, especially for the solo play, since you're having to find certain symbols for each of the tiles. But all in all, it's worth it. And as for the components, I do feel like the cards are a bit flimsy. I'm actually going to sleeve them to protect them a little bit. And I think having to add the provisions on the ships can be a bit of a hassle. As you can see, I played without adding them. I just placed them on the board to keep track. Of course, it's easier to do that playing solo. All right, so in conclusion, this is a solid Euro with some fun mechanics that keep me busy and enjoying the challenge. I recommend this game to anyone that kind of likes the Viking theme and enjoys the tracks and enjoys the map racing through to get tiles. Now, if you're expecting a deeper theme or you're expecting more challenges, this might not be the game for you. All right, so that's it for me. Until our next board game adventure, hope you had a great time with this one.